Brian, after watching Hard Knocks, after watching the game Saturday night, after doing all the reading that I do, it seems to me that this Houston Texans team, primarily because of the quarterback situation, is going to have to win a lot of games by scores like 10-6, 13-10, and that's only if you get some guys back from injury in time. Arian Foster, Clowney on the defensive line. Is that the way you see it?
That's 100% it. I mean, that is the 2015 Houston Texans in a nutshell. They have the defensive talent. If everything clicks with them defensively, they could be a top 5 team in the NFL defensively. J.J. Watt, for my money, is the best player on the defensive side of the ball in the NFL. If Clowney gives them anything this year, anything, it's a huge plus. Right now, he hasn't played a snap for them, and I don't think he's going to play in the preseason. But he should be ready for Week 1 against the Chiefs, and passing situations, long yardage, 3rd and 8, those type of things. Secondary is good. Linebackers have some issues, but they have depth there. But it's all about the offense with this team, and it's not just Brian Hoyer in the quarterback situation. As you pointed out, we don't know when Arian Foster is going to come back. He could be placed on, early IR with designation to return and come back for Week 10. Best case scenario, he's back probably maybe for Week 5. But if you don't have Arian Foster and you don't have Andre Johnson, you don't have a true number 2 wide receiver, and Brian Hoyer is on a short leash as quarterback, you're going to rely on that defense, and you're going to try and win games, 14-10, 13-7, all those types of things. And that's rough to do week in and week out in the NFL, but that's where they're at. And until they find that quarterback, they're going to be dealing with this as long as Bill O'Brien's the coach.
Brian, you and Les kind of touched upon it twice, Hard Knocks. The decision made, a lot of teams are staying away. The Broncos refuse to do it. Teams are shying away. They don't want to be brought inside. Do you think this has had any kind of negative, positive, or any effect whatsoever on the Houston Texans and how people in Houston, including you, are looking at this team and O'Brien?
Yeah, it's a great question, and one that you would probably understand better than just about anybody, considering how long you've been doing it and how access has changed, not just over the years but over the decades. I'm going to give you my honest take. I'm very, very big, in terms of honoring old media and doing everything you can. I've covered the NBA, Major League Baseball, NFL as a traveling beat writer. NFL has horrible access compared to the other two, so you're already uphill. It gets tighter and worse every year. So my initial impression was, oh man, Hard Knocks will come in. It's going to be such a pain. On and on. It really hasn't been that way. And when you factor in that Bill O'Brien is a bit of a Bill Belichick control freak when it comes to access and how he handles those things, he's actually rolled with it very well. I mean, they've lost Arian Foster to injury. They've had a starting quarterback named Brian Hoyer, and they've done everything like normal with Hard Knocks filling everything. So honestly, now that I'm seeing it in person, I believe a lot of that's just that classic NFL paranoia and the media overreacting and all those things that tend to happen. I'm convinced more than ever you could win a Super Bowl and open your doors. And obviously you're not going to have them in the film room when you're cutting players. But, baseball does just fine with having the media talk to players and coaches nonstop for hours a day. The NFL could probably learn a lot from baseball, a little bit of the NBA, and honestly what Hard Knocks has done to the Texans this year.
Brian, your biggest takeaway about the Denver Broncos from that game Saturday night?
Yeah, that it's going to take some work for that team offensively. I mean, obviously you guys know it better than I do, but they've had the changes. The offensive line continues to be in transition. Peyton Manning at 39 and the fall off last year. I like this team, but that's a lot of change with everything from the coaching staff. Gary Kubiak kind of doing the 2012 Texans, on that staff with Phillips, Rick Dennison on down. I obviously think it can work. I believe that the AFC is wide open this year if Tom Brady doesn't play the first 2 to 4 games. I like the Colts, but I'm not sold on the Colts, especially because of their defense and offensive line, on and on. So there's no reason the Broncos can't be, in the AFC Championship again. But it feels like it has to all click this year, whereas maybe the last 2 or 3 years, they were obviously, the favorite or one of the top 2 favorites going in. And I just think it's going to take time. So maybe they're one of those teams by Week 17, they're fine and they get hot in the playoffs and they make the role they haven't really done under Manning. But I didn't see a team that was, nearly as in sync as it needs to be in the second preseason game. But it's just the second preseason game.